Hey guys, we are off the clock, which means you are not my employees and I am not your boss. You don't have to listen to anything I say. This is all just my opinion. So, in the interest of time, I'm going to assume that you know what's going on between two content creators that are fairly popular here on YouTube, Bearing and Vegan Gains. Now, I'm glad that Bearing and Vegan Gains are having this conversation out in the open for us. I'm going to take this opportunity to respond to some of it. Mostly, I agree with Bearing. Having listened to over 2 hours of debate and argument from both of them, I find Vegan Gains' points to be entirely unpersuasive and even counterproductive to veganism itself and the propelling of that movement forward. Now, before you head down to the comment section to vent at me, let me explain to you why. First of all, I feel like Vegan Gains is not arguing from the correct position. I'll use a visual to explain. See, Vegan Gains sees the vegan versus meat eater argument in the shape of the letter Y, where the base is the path that we've been on as meat-eating humans, while the two arms represent veganism and meat eating. So he thinks that we are stuck at the fork in the road and that we can't move forward until we, as a society, decide which path to take. So he lays out his argument in favor of veganism as the obvious moral choice. And now he's waiting for a counter-argument from meat eaters like Bearing. And that's where Vegan Gains is wrong. This argument is not in the shape of a Y. It's actually more like a T turned sideways. You see, as I already said, humans have been eating meat for most of our history. And Vegan Gains wants us to stop and instead go in an entirely different direction, veganism, which is fine. There's no issue with that. I just for the record, don't have a problem with veganism. But if we as a society decide that he's full of crap, he's not persuasive, not that veganism isn't necessarily right, but we haven't heard anything persuasive enough for us to change. If that's the case, then we'll simply continue on eating meat as we pretty much always have. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, unfortunately, people like Vegan Gains will dismiss this argument by calling it a fallacy, that we're appealing to tradition.
People say, oh, well, we've been eating meat and animal products for so long. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Well, that could be used to justify anything. Well, we've been doing X for so long, so that means it's justified. Rape, murder, that's justified.
Yeah, it's not really the same though, is it? In that rape and murder haven't been a vital part of our diet for 2.5 million years.
Oh, I see. So we can make exceptions for logical fallacies as long as it involves your diet. An appeal to tradition fallacy is a valid argument as long as it's in defense of eating meat. No, Bearing, sorry, but that's not how logical fallacies work.
But that's simply not the case. Let me put it another way. Vegan Gains sees this argument like one sees a political debate. Both candidates lob talking points at one another in an effort to score points with the audience, the voters, and whoever scores the most points wins.
Wrong.
That's not how this argument is at all. This argument is more like a legal proceeding. We're at trial, we're in court. And prosecutor Vegan Gains first has to prove and demonstrate to the court that he has a substantial factual case against the defense, and before we even get into the trial stage, he has to demonstrate to the court that there's a chance of winning. In other words, Bearing doesn't have to say a word at this point. Now, I say this because there were comments on Vegan Gains' live stream of the most recent debate that they had, where people were asking, hey, you know, why did Bearing and this other guy, why did they agree to this if all they're going to say is, I don't care and I don't have to make an argument? Because this isn't a political debate where we spar once, back and forth. We spar together once, and once we get to a certain number of points, up, debate over, we won. Did we exhaust all of our talking points? We don't have any more talking points? Okay, good. Audience, you decide. That's not what this case is, because we are already meat eaters as a society, and we have been, and that's not an appeal to tradition. You're trying to change that, which means you need to be persuasive. You need to convince society. Does that make sense? Vegan Gains is the one who is arguing for change. So instead of attacking the moral credibility of the accused, he should spend more time trying to persuade society, the jury, by sticking to the facts. If you don't have any facts to help make your case, Mr. Prosecutor, then the defense gets to walk without saying the word. That's the way the judicial system works. And this argument is more like a judicial proceeding. I don't have to come into the argument, especially when you're arguing moral points, because moral points are subjective. What I think is moral and ethical, you may not. And that is true for every single person on the planet. And so if you're going to try and get everyone together to agree on a single moral point, or even a few moral points, you're going to wind up not having a very growing group. You're not going to have a group that's growing. Because opinions change over time, and that's what morality is. Things that I used to think were immoral, like we're always taught as children, you do not lie, you do not tell lies. But now as an adult, you kind of understand, well, sometimes you have to lie. As long as nobody gets hurt, it's not really a lie. Okay, well, if you heard your kid say that, hey, no, you do not lie to me. I don't care what it is. Well, wait a second. Morality is changing. Yes, it is. That's correct. So, to recap this point, let me reiterate. This is not an argument between pro-vegans, pro-veganism, and pro-meat eating. This is an argument about keeping our diet balanced through the food that we eat, including meat, or change. Not just changing our diet, but indeed changing our lifestyle, because veganism is a lifestyle. It's not just a caloric diet. So based on the hours of Vegan Gains content that I've watched, let me walk you through some of his primary arguments, and I'll debunk them along the way. Number 1, Vegan Gains wants to make sure that we all know that veganism is not extremist.
Many people conflate veganism with social justice, and let me tell you, the two should not be associated. Veganism is not predicated on leftist think, leftist ideology. It's just simply not.
I don't have a problem with the notion that veganism isn't predicated on leftist think or leftist ideology, but a high proportion of vegans do tend to lean to the left, so it's probably not unfair for people to associate veganism with the left. A higher proportion of atheists also seem to lean to the left, but these are just trends, not rules. There's nothing outrageous about being a right-leaning vegan who doesn't believe in God.
Okay, so Bering, you already admit that veganism itself has nothing to do with any political ideology. It's simply the belief and lifestyle that animals shouldn't be exploited and killed. So weird how you decided to title this video, Extreme Vegan Virtue Signals About Virtue Signaling. It's clear what you're trying to do here. A vegan has told you that it is immoral to consume animal products, and you're trying to refute this moral argument by claiming that anyone who tells you that it is immoral to consume animal products is part of the far left wing and they're a social justice warrior extremist. It's not enough that vegans will tell you they're not in support of the far left wing, that veganism is not a far left wing political movement. You have to accuse us of virtue signaling inception because we tell you what you're doing is wrong. I'm sorry, Bering, but people can have ethical views different from your own without being a social justice warrior extremist.
Agreed. I agree. The simple act of being vegan is not extremist. And for the record, from what I can tell, not to speak for him, but Bering has conceded this point as well. Right. The simple act of being a vegan doesn't inherently mean extremism. I live here in Southern California. I personally know vegans. They're not extremists. I got it. I agree. Veganism as a collective is not extremist. However, stay with me. Vegans as individuals can absolutely be extremist in their views. In fact, I'll just say it. Vegan Gains, in my opinion, is a vegan extremist. No, but vegans can't be extremist. No, yes, they can. Vegans can be extremist, but to be a vegan is not extremist. There's a difference. You have to. Words are important, guys. Words are important. Why? Why is Vegan Gains a vegan extremist? How dare you? Back that up, not your boss. Okay, I will. Because he isn't happy with simply being a vegan himself. Veganism is about, when you talk to people, even Vegan Gains, his definition is this: we're concerned, as vegans, we're concerned about the ethical treatment of animals, and because we view animals as being abused and mistreated, we don't participate in that industry. We don't reward an industry for doing something that we think is wrong. So we don't eat meat, we don't eat animal flesh, and we don't eat animal products or animal byproducts or any of that stuff. We stay away from the industry as a whole, as a way of sort of punishing them for what they do. We don't agree with it. Okay, well, what does that have to do with me? Vegan Gains doesn't just hold vegan views. He openly demands that Bering and you and I and society, everyone, has to be vegan too. Or, as he would say, we should be. Because it's moral. It's right. It's just. This is your opinion. These are not arguments. If we refuse, I don't want to be a vegan. Vegan Gains, stop it. I don't want to be a vegan. Well, you're unethical. You're immoral.
A vegan has told you that it is immoral to consume animal products because we tell you what you're doing is wrong.
That's your opinion.
People can have ethical views different from your own.
I don't care about your opinion. And don't confuse that with I don't care. Like, I don't care about you. I care about you as a person. I don't want to see any harm come to you. But I am indifferent when it comes to your opinion. Indifferent in that I don't care what your opinion is. Understand? See the difference? I eat meat. Not your boss. Meat eater. But if you don't eat meat, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian or whatever, if you don't eat meat, that's okay. That's okay. I don't want to force you to eat meat if you don't want to. Regardless of your reasons, I don't care. You don't care? That's not what I mean. I am indifferent. I don't care what your diet is. Eat whatever you want, and let me eat whatever I want. Okay? No. Vegan Gains is a vegan. But if I am not a vegan, or if you are not a vegan, that's not okay. He does want to force me and you and Bering and everyone else in society to be a vegan. Because veganism is moral, veganism is ethical, veganism is right, veganism is healthier. He'll throw out all sorts of moral justifications, which again, your morals are different from mine.
People can have ethical views different from your own.
What you think is right and wrong, we may agree here and there, but on this topic, we do not, sir. And that has to be okay.
People can have ethical views different from your own.
That can make you angry, that can make you frustrated, but that will not incite you to action. And if it does, that's what makes you an extremist.
People can have ethical views different from your own.
Blocking slaughterhouse trucks from moving into the factory. See, for example, I don't agree with Common Core here in America, right? I don't agree with Common Core being taught in schools. So I'm going to go and firebomb the nearest elementary school. But I'm not an extremist. Sorry, what? No. I actually, this is true, I don't agree with Common Core. But I'm not going to go get a group of friends together and picket the school so that kids can't go to class. You see what I'm saying? I think that Common Core actually hurts education. I think that these kids' lives, well, education isn't really affecting people. Really? You're going to try and make that argument, Vegan Gains? Really? You're going to say, well, we're talking about the slaughter of innocent animals. They're not slaughtering kids in school. Well, that's your opinion. My opinion is they're slaughtering their minds, because I think that Common Core doesn't work as well as they think it does, or they say it does. And I think that's going to stunt our educational growth for generations. unless we get it out, right? But I'm not going to go and firebomb a school. I'm not going to go and block traffic at the school. I'll call my congressman. I'll write my senator. You know? Taking it further, that's what makes you an extremist. Well, vegans aren't extremists. You're right as a collective. That's not persuasive enough that veganism is right or moral or healthier. Yeah, I don't care. That's your opinion. Oh, but vegans have lower statistics. All right, I'll get specific. All right, fine. Vegans have lower statistics of certain diseases like diabetes, heart disease. Okay, true enough. Yeah, absolutely. But how do I know that that's because of the vegan diet and not because of something like vegans just being more health conscious and exercising more? Most vegans that I know are like huge into yoga. Like we're talking like 5 days a week. There are other things. They're very health conscious. Like I said, veganism is a lifestyle. So it's not just the diet. But in all of Vegan Gains' arguments, not just the live streams and not just the stuff with Bearing, but in most of the things that I've seen externally from these new things, these recent things, you're focused on this diet. Oh, no. All you got to do is cut meat out of your diet and you will live to be 130. Okay, that's a bit of an extreme. That's a bit of an exaggeration. Vegan Gains didn't say that. But do you see what I'm getting at? How do I know that it's the cutting out of the meat all by itself? For example, Vegan Gains, if you'll accept a challenge, I'll throw one down, absolutely. For 6 months, I don't want you to exercise. At all. Like, I want you parking as close as you can to the store so you don't have to walk very far. I don't want you helping carrying the groceries. Not a push-up, not a sit-up, not a run, not a walk. Nothing. But a vegan diet for 6 months. And let's see what happens. If the vegan diet is the end-all be-all, the cure-all, if that's the sole reason why people are healthier, then let's see how big your muscles are when you cut out exercise 100% for 6 months. Challenge accepted? Let me know. See you in 6 months. I can eat meat and still exercise. So the whole vegan lifestyle thing, you haven't proven that. You have to prove that. That's on you to prove before I have to respond and say, yeah, it doesn't sound right. Yeah, I'm going to need a little bit harder evidence. Let's get a long-term effect of some of this stuff. Now, at this point, Vegan Gains gets really mad, okay? I, or the person that he's talking to, am not buying into the bullshit. Not that he's intentionally bullshitting. This is one thing I want to clarify and make very clear. I think that Vegan Gains honestly believes this, and I think that what he's talking about, I don't mean to say like he's a bullshitter. I don't think that he thinks what he's saying is bullshit. I think what he's saying is bullshit. Sorry, Vegan Gains. I think you're coming at it from the right place, but the way you go about it, totally wrong. Totally wrong. And that's why I said earlier that it's counterproductive to veganism. You make vegans out to be really aggressive, extremist, and not very intelligent. So at this point, I'm not buying his bullshit, right? And that frustrates him. So you know what he calls me? A sociopath. He'll say that the only reason I eat meat is because I get pleasure from the taste. And that because of that bloodlust, if you will, I look the other way in terms of the abuse, the torture, the suffering, and the death of animals.
And you're telling me that people choose to shorten their lives and lower their food resources for anything other than taste pleasure. It's funny how you talk about the diets of our ancient ancestors and the evolution of our brain without mentioning that insects were a large part of early hominid diets and it contributed to brain expansion. So why don't you eat insect sparing? Those cockroaches running around your apartment, they have lots of protein. Don't you need to just grab whatever the fuck you can to power that huge brain of yours? Oh, what? You don't like cockroaches and insects? It's almost as if you eat foods based on your taste preferences. Tell me again how you don't just eat meat because you like the taste?
What we're saying is, it is immoral and it's unjustified to kill animals just because you desire animal flesh, just because you like the taste of steak. And when you keep coming up with these responses like, our ancestors have done it. It was responsible for the evolution of our brain. Like, completely irrelevant crap that's a logical fallacy. That's not an adequate reply. So, like, what I'd like you to just say... No, like, what I'd like you to just admit is you don't really care and you like the taste of meat.
Dude, how the hell did we get here? This is dark. What the heck? We were having a lovely conversation up until this point. So let's address this new layer of bullshit in order. First of all, I don't get pleasure from the pure taste of meat. There are some meats that I do enjoy, but others that don't taste good to me. However, before you claim this gotcha moment, before you go there, you sociopath, for calling me, oh God, you sociopath, I can't believe you. Before you go there, understand that this is true for pretty much every person in every food group. For example, bread. I like buttermilk and sourdough more than I like plain white bread. I enjoy broccoli, but not Brussels sprouts. I enjoy oranges, but not grapefruit. I enjoy sweet and spicy, but not bitter or sour or salty. Additionally, if you're going to make the argument that this is all just a pure taste factor, it's just taste pleasure for meat, then why do we have steak sauce to alter the taste of the meat? Herbs, spices, rubs, and marinades. Well, because they make the meat taste better. Wait. Taste better? I thought your argument was that it's the pure taste of the meat itself. So how come I don't eat meat raw? Hang on, I'll get there. I know plenty of people who will not touch steak unless it is drizzled with sauce or ketchup or something. That sounds to me more like they have a taste pleasure for the sauce, because they don't like the meat all by itself. Well, that's because they're evolving, and we're evolving into more of a plant-based... No. Wishful thinking, but no. The taste pleasures for the sauce, the rub, the marinade. It's not the meat. If we were happy with the taste of meat, then why are we so obsessed with making it taste better? I'm sorry, but, these are reasonable questions, I feel. I know plenty of people who enjoy cooked fish, but will not touch sushi. So, do you see how flimsy this is? This is how rudimentary some of Vegan Gaines' arguments are. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be condescending, and I genuinely want to have a conversation here, but we have to have a certain decorum and a certain level of intellectual honesty. You can't just throw out there that I'm an immoral sociopath who just bloodlusts over the taste of meat, when I can just so easily poke holes in that. That's completely disingenuous. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, second, how dare you accuse me of being complicit in the abuse and suffering of animals? How dare you? When I order a steak at the restaurant, I don't look at the waiter and say, your beef comes from cows that were abused, right? Maybe do a little South Park Cable Company? Huh? How abused were they? Go into detail, slowly. What the hell? How is this genuinely how you see us? I'm not the sociopath. I say to the waiter, do you have pictures or videos that I can enjoy? I want to enjoy the torture and the abuse and the suffering while I chow down on the flesh. Wow, we're monsters. We're monsters, huh? As Bering said in one of his videos, yeah, I totally am with you. I support reform in the meat industry. Total reform. Gut it and start over again if you have to. I could support that. That makes a lot more sense to me. No, I don't want animals to be abused or tortured, but I have come to terms and accepted the fact that animals, in order to provide me with meat that I can eat, they have to die. Do I want them to die? No, but I want the meat. Well, then you want them to die. No. Can you think of a way that I can get meat from an animal without doing it any harm? Yeah, don't eat meat.
Wrong.
You just moved the goalpost. You just moved the goalpost. Disingenuous. Have you ever heard the expression, in order to make an omelet, you have to crack a few eggs? That seems ironically appropriate to mention it at this point. Like, it's a fact of life. It's a fact of life. Does it suck? Sure. Yep. Am I 100% on board with it? No. If there were a better way proposed tomorrow, would I take a look at it? Yeah. Do I wish there was a better way? Of course. Is that enough to get me to stop eating meat entirely, cold turkey, overnight, and completely alter my lifestyle? No. Not persuasive. Death is a fact of life, and unfortunately, suffering often precedes death. And animals raised to become food have to die to become food. Bering said that, and you laughed it off. It's not a joke. It's sarcastic humor, sure, but it's a fact of life. So instead of bitching at me and Bering about how immoral it is, Vegan Gains, why don't you devise a better way that doesn't move the goalposts? Oh, but mock meat, it basically tastes the same.
Okay, like, the issue is I almost get to the point where you agree it's unnecessary to kill animals, or I think you actually have admitted that somewhat.
In the sense that we could survive. We could survive without killing animals. Yes, you're right.
Well, we'd even be better off.
But we don't want to survive. We want to kill animals. We want the meat.
Yeah,
just want to.
How is that? Okay, how is a personal luxury like that is unnecessary, and there's very viable alternatives like mock meats? How does that, like, morally justify needlessly killing these animals?
It's not all about taste. Perfect segue, though. Perfect segue. We've spent a lot of time on that particular point, so let's do a quicker one next. Vegan Gains repeats over and over and over and over that eating meat is unnecessary and therefore immoral. Modern technology, he says, has made it so that we no longer have to use meat as a primary source of specific nutrients.
My position is, from the research I've done over the years, and this has ultimately turned me vegan, and I turned vegan overnight actually because I realized this. So human beings have absolutely no nutritional needs to eat meat. We do perfectly fine on a whole foods vegan diet. In fact, most of the research suggests we do better. The diet we've evolved to eat is a herbivorous diet. And because of that, because we live in modern Western society and we have the luxury of modern agriculture, it's completely unnecessary and therefore unethical to raise and kill animals for food. So that's my position on it.
But this argument is disingenuous. The way Vegan Gains tries to nonchalantly pass this one off makes it seem like meat no longer provides any value to any diet. But of course it does. Just because we now have more options, just because we have alternatives for different nutrient sources that maybe weren't available to us before, doesn't mean that meat suddenly lacks those nutrients. Does that make sense? All of a sudden there's no value in meat because I can eat 7 pounds of peanuts instead? Wait a second. Whoa. No, does not compute. So this one is easy. And I'm going to have a little fun with it. Vegan Gains, you know we have bottled water to drink, right? We have that now. And we have sanitizer for our hands. We have new hand sanitizer. It comes in a little pocket thing. My wife has one attached to her purse with a little key ring. So I guess we can go ahead and rip out all of the sinks everywhere, right? They're not necessary. We don't need to wash our hands and we don't drink from sinks anymore. We have bottled water and hand sanitizer. So just spray Lysol around to clean everything. We don't need sinks. We don't need water from those sinks. Sinks have become unnecessary as a water source and a cleaning method. So just stock up on more expensive bottled water and you're good. Never mind the side effects, like what all those plastic bottles are going to do to the environment, though, right? Like, let's just forget the side effects. We're not going to mention the side effects. There are no side effects. There's always side effects. So this is the part where Vegan Gains is going to go and say, well, sinks don't harm anyone. Unlike meat eating causes the suffering and the death of sentient beings. But sinks don't hurt anything. Really? Funny, I thought that all drains lead to the ocean. And don't all sinks have drains? So, since technology has given us alternatives and drains are dangerous for ocean life, Vegan Gains, you are on board. You have to be, because the logic is sound. I'm recommending now, and Vegan Gains seconds my motion, that we ban all sinks. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it, Vegan Gains. I appreciate it. You don't like this argument? This argument, that's okay. Whoa, what a stretch. Talk about reaching. All right. Now I get to have a little fun, because sex sells. What do you say? Ears perked up? You heard it. All right, let's switch to in vitro fertilization. All I'm going to do, I'm going to take your vegan argument, your argument against eating meat, and I'm going to apply it to the world's favorite pastime. That's not true. Yeah, it is. Sex. Since we can use technology to aid in human reproduction, we can go ahead and ban physical sexual intercourse, since it's basically just for pleasure at this point. Barbaric. Physical intercourse is no longer necessary for the survival of our species. You can survive without sex? Yeah, I don't want to. Any volunteers? Hands way down. Nope. So, by banning intercourse, what are the pros? We can eliminate STDs. Gone. Because no one's having sex anymore. There are alternatives to getting pleasure, including sexual pleasure. There are alternatives to physical intercourse. So we can ban intercourse. We'll no longer have the need for abortions either, so we can throw out the whole pro-life, pro-choice debate. It's no longer an issue. Why? Because with in vitro fertilization, people are only getting pregnant when they want to. There are no more surprise pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies. There is no need for an abortion unless a woman medically needs one, but you see what I'm saying? Dude, this sounds great! We're eliminating STDs. We're going to fight diseases like AIDS. We're going to eliminate the need for abortions, so we don't even have to talk about it anymore. It's not an issue. Dude, let's ban sex. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody in the back? In the back? One hand? One? No? No, he's just stretching. He's just stretching. Meat still contains nutrients that are good for me. Well, but it's not 100% good for you. You know, a diet that's high in meat, a diet that's high in anything is bad for you. You can die if you drink too much water, Vegan Gains. Water! An essential building block for life, water, can kill you if your diet is too high in it. In other words, if you drink too much. So simply saying, you know, we don't need to eat meat anymore like our ancestors did, that's a fallacy to appeal to our tradition, to our ancestors, because we don't need the high calories, so eat less meat, but you don't have to cut it out entirely. You haven't made that point. Fine, we don't need as many calories as we used to, so eat less. But keep it balanced. Don't just remove an entire food group because it makes you feel bad. Soapbox away for a second. I'm sorry. This is a different video. Hand sanitizer box. I'll get off my hand sanitizer box. Stop preaching from my soapbox. Hand sanitizer box. So no, yeah, I'm going to keep eating meat. No veganism for me, thank you. I appreciate your offer. I respectfully decline. I'm going to keep eating meat instead of eating extra vegetables to make up for the lack of nutrients by joining a diet that you recommend that has no meat. Just eat some more fortified broccoli or something. No! I'll just have meat, thanks. I'm good, thanks. I appreciate it. And you know what I'm certainly not going to do? I'm certainly not going to inject myself with B12, vitamin B12. Vegan Gains injects himself with vitamin B12, which a lot of people do. But, since Vegan Gains will accuse meat eaters of just getting off on the taste pleasure of meat, maybe we should start saying, well, you know, the real reason he's promoting veganism is because he gets off on his use of needles. Fair? Oh, I get to inject myself with B12. Oh, it feels so good. Needles. What else do you use those needles for? I have no idea. There's a lot of needles running around, though. There are other ways to get B12. You could drink fortified soy milk. Yeah, I don't care. That's not a strong enough argument. You don't care. I am indifferent. I'll stick to the meat. There are other ways to get vitamin B12. You can have fortified, you just eat fortified plant-based, or I could eat fortified meat. It's the same. No, it's not the same, because meat is unethical. We already went over that. That's not an argument. That's your opinion. Again, sideways T. We've eaten meat, and you want me to change. I want to know why. And so far, the best you have is, but the animals and my feels. I don't care about your feels. I care about the animals. I don't care about your feels. I guess 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Yeah, it kind of is. So lastly, Vegan Gains wants you to believe, I should have started with this, but I wanted to end on this point. This is a political channel. This is a business channel. What the hell am I talking about veganism and meat eating? Like, where did this even come from? All right. Well, Vegan Gains wants you to believe that veganism is not associated with any particular side of the political spectrum, which is true.
Many people conflate veganism with social justice, and let me tell you, the two should not be associated. Veganism is not predicated on leftist think, leftist ideology. It's just simply not.
I don't have a problem with the notion that veganism isn't predicated on leftist think or leftist ideology, but a high proportion of vegans do tend to lean to the left, so it's probably not unfair for people to associate veganism with the left. A higher proportion of atheists also seem to lean to the left, but these are just trends, not rules. There's nothing outrageous about being a right-leaning vegan who doesn't believe in God.
Okay, so Bering, you already admit that veganism itself has nothing to do with any political ideology. It's simply the belief and lifestyle that animals shouldn't be exploited and killed.
But vegan extremists, unfortunately, they're different. This is one of the first things he says in his original response video to Bering. But of course, this is also wrong. Vegan Gains himself says it. Not intentionally, but it certainly comes out. He glosses over it. It's said in passing, but it's said a few times. He says these things. You know, a vegan tells you to do something. Dude, you don't have the right to tell me to do anything. Well, a vegan tells you that eating meat is immoral. I don't care. Stay away from me. Stop harassing me. You don't have the right to tell me that what I'm doing is immoral. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but it's not going to change my behavior. It's going to piss me off if you keep harassing me, though. Oh, you can't take it? Harassment? No, it pisses me off. So, check out this clip.
So when you go to the grocery store to buy meat, you're doing it for survival? If you couldn't get lamb chops at Costco, you'd starve to death? No, I don't think so. I think you just go to the grocery store and buy meat because you like the taste. Unlike a lion, you don't need meat to survive. You don't need meat to be healthy, and in fact, it's detrimental to your health. So get the fuck over yourself.
Okay, so Vegan Gains is obviously making fun of Bering here. I get it. But did you notice what Vegan Gains said? All of a sudden, if I can't buy meat at Costco anymore? Hold up. Pause. Stop. Hold up.
If you couldn't get lamb chops at Costco, you'd starve to death.
Why can't I? Can't? I wake up one morning and all of a sudden I can't buy meat at a place that I have previously bought meat? Okay, Vegan Gains, explain to me. In your example, why can't I buy meat from Costco anymore? Oh, well, Costco finally realized the error of their ways. And since veganism is so popular and is so moral and ethical, it's a growing movement. So maybe some of their leaders over there at Costco, maybe they're vegan, so they voluntarily switched to selling meat. Oh, well, that's okay. Because I have my own butcher that I prefer to go to anyways. See, I know a guy, true story. See, I know a guy that runs a restaurant. And he has studied meat and barbecue, cooking methods, sauces, rubs. He's been to barbecue meccas where they do different things, and he's brought it to Southern California. He's a wealth of knowledge about cuts and rubs and marinades and cooking times, you name it. He has dedicated his life to this, and he runs a business centered around meat as a food. So I'll just keep buying my meat from him. It's okay that Costco decided to stop. Oh. All of a sudden I can't buy from him either? Why not? Now eventually I'm going to keep going with this. As far as Vegan Gains wants to stretch it out, not necessarily Vegan Gains, but I'm just saying, as far as somebody who's arguing these points wants to go, and eventually he's going to finally admit it. Admit what? He's finally going to blurt out, he's going to slip up, and he's going to say, well, the government, we're going to lobby the government, we're going to put so much pressure on the meat industry that we're going to pass legislation that bans meat as a food and is preventing you and me from buying it or consuming it. Wow. Well, that's pretty hefty regulation. You're not associated with any political group, huh? I mean, sure, we already have things that we're banned from consuming, drugs, for example. All right, but this law that you're talking about, that would be huge. Taking meat, which has been a staple of our diet, and suddenly making it illegal, banning it? That's rather authoritarian sounding. That's rather big government. That's rather socialist. That's rather leftist. That's rather liberal of you, Mr. Vegan Extremist. Not vegan, because again, like I said, there are vegans who don't try to push their veganism on me. Although that reminds me of a funny joke. How can you tell if a person is vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
A vegan has told you that it is immoral to consume animal products because we tell you what you're doing is wrong.
Dude, keep it to yourself, man. I don't care. You don't care? I'm indifferent. So, hypothetically speaking, since government's banning things has worked out so well, what if people create a black market for steak? Or do we call that a charred market? Or charred market? Charred market. Charbroiled market? This could be fun. Blackened? Black steak? Black pepper market? What do we call this black market for meat? I don't know. It could be fun though. What happens to them? They're going to go to jail? They're going to get fined? What's going to happen to them? What if I decide, fine, I can't buy meat and consume meat? That's going to be a problem. But what if I raise my own meat? Is that going to be? No. Well, okay. Well, wait a second. So let's wrap this up. We're almost done, I promise, guys. From all of my research, I have come to the conclusion that Vegan Gains relies entirely on appeals to emotion, which itself is a logical fallacy. So Vegan Gains, you really need to stop throwing out, well, that's an appeal to nature fallacy. Well, that's an appeal to tradition fallacy. Well, that's a fallacy for this. Your entire argument is predicated on appeals to emotion. When anyone go back and watch your video. I have notes on your videos. I sat here and watched all of your videos on this stuff and took notes of how many, I cannot tell you, I have not gone and counted how many times you have said, well, eating meat is unnecessary, therefore it's unethical. Dude, no. What are you talking about? That is a fallacy. That is an appeal to emotion. Every time you get sidetracked, it becomes very apparent that the umbrella issue in your head is the ethical treatment of animals.
Veganism itself has nothing to do with any political ideology. It's simply the belief and lifestyle that animals shouldn't be exploited and killed.
Which is a noble cause. I'm glad that that is it. But you are not going to convince me to change my diet that I have been consuming my entire life simply because you shame me or guilt me into it. My first reaction is going to be to what? Resist you. I'm not even hearing your points, but the simple fact that you're being so aggressive, and as aggressive as you were with bearing, well, I just did that so that it got people's attention. Yeah, it did. It opened a lot of eyes, frankly. So, vegan gains, you rely entirely on appeals to emotion. It's wrong, it's ethical, it's unnecessary, there's suffering, there's death. You just like pepper us with it, and it just if I'm indifferent, it just falls by the wayside. You're not convincing anybody, and eventually you piss me off. So counterproductive. As well as you apply a lot of moralistic fallacies. For example, when you say that meat eating, as I already mentioned, meat eating causes suffering and death, therefore meat is not beneficial and meat is unnecessary. Wait a second. No, those two are unrelated. You're basing your fact on opinion and emotion, which is yours. I don't share your opinion and I don't feel your emotions. So how are you going to persuade me? Facts. Also, as I said, Vegan Gains' approach in this argument is an excellent example of the cognitive bias called anchoring, or focalism. Vegan Gains says, without convincing evidence, that eating meat is unnecessary. Therefore, anyone who eats meat is an immoral sociopath.
Wrong.
I have more examples, and I could throw together some more clips if you'd like to see both sides of this little argument. But what I'd really recommend, of course, is checking out Bearing's channel and Vegan Gains' channel. I disagree with Vegan Gains, but you ought to check out his content anyways. Make up your own mind. You don't have to listen to anything I say, because I am not your boss, and this is all just my opinion anyways. And nobody cares about opinions. Vegan Gains. So, let's get back to work. Damn, this thing made me hungry. Babe, let's get some barbecue.